So what actually is UBCM?
UBCM stands for Union of Municipalities of British Columbia. So basically every town, city, village, burg in BC gathers their mayors and councils one time a year to be represented at a convention in Vancouver, Whistler, or Victoria. And the whole idea there is to come together. You bring in resolutions. Now, to get to UBCM, there's a thing before that called SILGA, which is Southern Interior Legislative Governing Association. That's where we take our problems. Like we took our resolution for the decrim dashboard to SILGA, and SILGA passed it. Now, had it failed at SILGA, it would not have gone to UBCM. But we could have gone to UBCM and pushed it off the floor. But that doesn't work very well, because if your association is not willing to support it, UBCM won't support it either. So I kind of look at SILGA as the farm team, and then UBCM as the pro team sort of thing. So you go through the process. So it's basically where we all gather together. We do presentations, like Cynthia, our CAO, made a presentation this year at Mid-Sized Community Forum. I presented last year at Mid-Sized Community Forums based on climate, how to recovering from a flood, that kind of thing. Then there's seminars on new housing legislation, homeless, fire smart stuff. So there's all these seminars for 3 or 4 days, and then on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays we start voting on the resolutions from all of the communities. I think there was 230 of them this year, one of the biggest I've ever seen, covering everything from derelict vessels being left behind on the coast to unparked cars on the sides of driveways and stuff like that, and everything in between. Fur-bearing trap stuff, so everything, sticky traps for mice, the sticky, the mice, to get that removed and stuff like that. Just so it covers every single thing that could bother a community, and they feel that they're looking for help. So what ends up happening, it gets approved at UBCM, it goes to the UBCM directors, and then they push it to the various ministries, and the ministers saying, here's all of the things that the community would like to see, you need to work on all of this stuff. And then it falls into their lap, and about 6 months later you get a letter saying, hey, we have a look at your resolution, and we're working on it. And then maybe something happens, and maybe something doesn't. Like, we've had some UBCM successes. Transit is one. In 2008, Transit, when I first got on council, I think it was the second year of Transit here, and we went down and really worked with the Transit and the minister to get Transit better here, and we've met every year since. So Transit is a UBCM success story, and it really is. We met last year with Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. We're really concerned about the going to Walmart, going over that overpass. We're worried somebody's going to get hit and killed. So we've, since about 2017, we've been fighting for a different overpass for the public to go over that. And we met with the staff last year, and then they approved it at no cost to us. Starting this spring, they'll start to put it in, so there'll be an overpass. So joining the south and north end of town over the highway, rather than using that bridge, there'll be a separate overpass so make it safer for people to go walk back and forth. So there are some UBCM successes, yes.
That's exciting. Were you and your crew there the whole 5 days?
Yes.
Oh, nice. The last council meeting, you said at UBCM you had some great meetings, had some great seminars, learned a lot of things, and did a lot more networking than you've ever done before. Could you elaborate on these meetings, seminars, and networking?
So some of the meetings that I had, I was invited to, along with Mayor Coyne of Princeton and Mayor Ross Siemens from Abbotsford, to the Dairy Association. They wanted to meet with us about the grant refusal from the federal government to support our dikes. They want to get behind us and help push that over the line. They're a very powerful group. They feel that they're dairy producers. A lot of these fields are being affected, et cetera, et cetera. So they want to get behind us. So that was a very positive meeting with them. But it wasn't an actual meeting set up by UBCM. It's set up by so there't many lobby groups at UBCM that then lobby you to come and listen to their deal as well. I myself went to a Fire Smart to get your community into a Fire Smart area and all that kind of stuff. And there was 3 ministers there for that. There was Minister Forrest there, Minister Bowen Maw, and Minister Nathan Cullen about fire preparedness, flood preparedness, stuff like that, stuff that we're dealing with. There's another thing called Mid-Sized Community Forums, and that's where every community over 5,000, between 5,000 and 15,000, we get together in a room and we discuss things that are happening in a mid-sized community forum. And the minister, one of the ministers was there with Minister Heyman, George Heyman. I can't remember what he's the minister of, but it's about, he's not water, lands, and natural resources, but he's about returning, getting things done so we don't have disasters. I'm sorry, I'm terrible on this. But one of the questions I had for him and his ministry at the end of it was, after their presentations, there's about a 20 minutes for questions and answer. You can go up to the mic and ask a question. And one of the things that we're concerned about here as Mayor and Council is the province does not have a diking authority. They have no provincial diking authority. What they want are the communities to look after their own dikes. And we don't have anybody that has that kind of knowledge or is trained to do that. So we rely on foresters to do it. Well, they look after trees. They don't look after, they're not hydrologists. Mm-hmm. So I've been pushing for almost 2 years that the province needs to take the dikes over as a diking authority, and I asked if he would, confirm to the fact that this government would do a diking strategy. He said they would look at it. That's what they say every year. But we have a thing called like an orphan dike, which means a dike that nobody owns. That's got to be concerning for people that live close to an orphan dike. Mm. So we're trying to get our dikes working here. So it would be nice if we had a diking authority, because then we could all follow the same rules, sort of thing. So I asked if that would be part of it. So we'll see what happens with that. And then some of the other councils, we don't all go to the same thing, because some things are happening. So we all try to go to something different. Some of the councillors went to a housing symposium. Some others went to a financing situation. And then at the end of the day, we all get together and we have supper, and then we talk about where everybody went. We exchange information, so we educate each other on what we did on that day. And that becomes a really nice point, because now we all are learning something. You can't attend everything. And then we start on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays passing the resolutions. Mm.
What was your favorite seminar that you attended?
I always like the mid-sized community forums, because that's where you see people from communities that have been affected by something, telling you what they've gone through and what processes they've now used, and what connections they've made to the provincial government. So if you ever do run into that, then you can actually use that information. So you do a lot of writing, and so I find the mid-sized community forums really a really good one. And I know that both Councillor Egan and Councillor Charney really enjoyed the housing one with Ravi Cologne. They got up and said some things. You might have to ask them what the questions that they asked, but they asked some poignant questions. One thing I was really proud about with Merritt is that we were represented at every single seminar that we could be at, and we got up and asked questions about things. We want some action. So this is one of the first councils that I think that just about everybody that goes stands up and says something. And it can be daunting, because there's 2,300 people in the crowd, right? You're standing in front of 2,300 people. Mm-hmm. But it was nice to see councillors get up and ask these questions, and ask them with passion. Mm-hmm. These weren't just off-the-cuff questions. These are questions that they really thought about and wanted some answers. So very proud of my council for doing it. One
of the info sessions was titled, "What's next for housing?" So what's next for housing, particularly for us in Merritt?
Well, what's next for housing is, of course, under the new housing laws that the ministry put out, Ravi Cologne put out, we have to follow those rules to a certain degree. But there's nothing wrong with the housing, the way they're looking at it. It's just trying to get it wrapped up so quickly. Communities we don't have the ability to do it that quick. When you do a OCP, official community plan, that's 18 months. They want us to do it in less than 5 months, and we just did it. It's supposed to be done every 5 years. And if you don't do it, there's all sorts of fines and stuff like that. So you got to slap this thing together. But then we have some questions about the housing situation. So we now have a lot. Let's say we have an ordinary lot where you had a single family dwelling on it before. Mm-hmm. That guy, so I say, you know what, now I can knock that house down and I can put up a sixplex on that lot. So now I can have 6 people living in there. The only problem is there's nowhere for parking. And then we're asking a lot that is hooked into the sewer that only handled 1 family, now handling 6. Mm-hmm. The sewer can't handle that. If you get 4 or 5 of them on the same road, you're going to end up blowing your sewer pipes to smithereens. So we're moving ahead with housing to house people, but the infrastructure is not being looked after. So it has to be a 2-tier thing. If we're going to do this plan with this condensed housing, then we need the infrastructure to be brought up as well as we move into this direction, because there are some issues. The other thing is that we have a 5-step building code plan, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think we're at level 3 right now. And every time they move up a step, it costs the homeowner about $50,000 to hit these step codes. So you're asking us to build homes quicker, but you won't remove the step code. So the step code is going to slow us down, or slow builders down, and it's also going to add to the price of the house. So the whole idea of the housing situation, like removing short-term rentals, STRs, is the fact that we can get more people in long-term residence. But with some of the items that the ministry still has in effect, it actually kills any kind of more affordable housing and quicker builds. You're still being regulated. On one hand, you're being told go like crazy. On the other hand, you're still being regulated, which is going to slow you down. You're not going to meet the targets. And one of the questions, not one of the questions, one of the concerns that we've brought up as Merritt is we're still recovering from a flood from 3 years ago. So we need to be exempt from all of that at this point, because we still have people that are still working with their insurance and DFA, Disaster Funding Authority, to get their homes back on track. So as a community that's still trying to recover from a flood, we need to be removed from that whole housing process at this point in time until we're back 100% completely on our feet. Now, we've asked for that. We haven't received any kind of notification that they're going to listen to us, but we will move ahead with housing as fast as we can, and that's all we can do. I mean, you can't get blood from a rock. It's that simple.
It seems that, like, how do I phrase this? Like, why doesn't the provincial government get it? It's like, okay, either if we're recovering from a flood, so either help us recover from the flood so that we can do the things that you want us to do, or like just exempt us. Like I feel like.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, we are also having some problems. Like we're working on the dike down by the city works yard, but Ministry of Waterlands and Resource Stewardship are throwing up barriers every week to slow us down and add more costs to it. For example, we met with Minister Cullen on this situation, and we had to do a study on a dike that cost us $30,000 that they knew we would never use. We can't build it there, but we still had to go ahead and do it. That cost the taxpayers $30,000. And they knew we couldn't use that dike. So it's this kind of stupidity that drives you insane. And they're constantly slowing us down and adding costs to that dike, even after the permits have been issued. Close to $800,000, more than what was supposed to be paid. So who comes up with that money? Taxpayers. So we met with Minister Cullen saying, if you're not aware of this, you should be, and you need to act on it, because we're trying to make our community safe. And between the federal and provincial government, every time we move on these dikes, we're slapped back. That shouldn't be happening. It should have been, we're 3 years in now. We're going to be starting our 4th year after the 16th of November. We're just working on one small dike, and the problems that we've run into on that is unacceptable. So that'll be the next thing that we go after is, why is this diking situation doing what it's doing? Back away, give us the money, and let us fix these dikes. Stop being a pain in our ass. But then again, you'll get announcements from these guys, because we're in an election year. Announcements are great, but a lot of the things with announcements are made, but there's no meat behind it after. It's like, okay, here's all these announcements. When do we actually see the finished product? And a lot of times we never do, but they've got to make an announcement. You know, like the ER closures, right? Mm-hmm. We've got 1,000 nurses ready to go. Where are these nurses? How come we're still being closed down? Let's make these announcements. You know, Merritt is going to get $2.5 million for the alternative billing process for the doctors. Yet our hospital is still closed down a year later, after the announcement of that fund, and our hospital is still being closed down because we don't have doctors that can fill that slot. So where'd the $2.5 million go? And that was a year ago. It was announced, October 18th of last year. So we got $2.5 million for the alternate paying process, APP, and yet we're still being closed down because we don't have doctors that have approved the APP. It's a year later. But again, it was an announcement. Made the minister feel good to make the announcement. But now you've got to back it up. That doesn't happen. Announcements are great, but you've got to be able to back the announcement up after a while.
Why don't they back up the announcements, you think?
I don't know. It's consistent. I mean, I hate to say it's politics, because that doesn't happen all the time. Now, Minister Ma, who was EMCR, whenever she made an announcement for Merritt, it came true. I think it's on the want of the minister and the ministry to actually move forward with it. So we never worried when Minister Ma told us something was going to happen. It happened. And we do find other ministries a little lacking, that they do make announcements and there's nothing. Then you got to go back and ask, hey, what about this? What about that? And then you get a letter saying, well, we're working on it. Well, it's a year later. How long does it take you to work on something? You know, we're a year in now. So we'd really like to see that 2.5 million we were promised to keep our doctors in the emergency room actually in play, so we don't have to have closures.
There was also some talks on climate change and emergency preparedness. What did Merritt get from UBCM in regards to that?
Well, Cynthia White, our CAO, she made she was a presenter at mid-sized community forums based on climate readiness and the things that we've gone through and the things that we are doing, how we are, we have a full, we're one of the first communities to hire an emergency management coordinator full-time. So that would be Adam Hart, and his job is to wake up every day like the town's on fire, or if the town was on fire, what would I do, or if we were flooding. So we have an EOC, a dedicated EOC up at the airport. We have all the plans for how to move forward in an emergency, our exit plans, all that. So that's his job. We were one of the first communities to do that, because I felt after the flood and everything, we had someone doing it off the desk at the fire hall, and it just wasn't happening correctly. So myself and council felt that we needed a full-time person to do this to get us ready, because climate change is a real thing. I mean, now we're back into La Nina, which means we're going to be wetter. You're already seeing the first atmospheric river up north already. You already saw that on the coast you got 155 millimeters of rain in 2 days. So you've got to be prepared, and you always want to be prepared for the worst. So there was a lot of climate change talk, because some communities that have not had issues like forest fires or floods, that know that their time is coming. Like there's some communities that live on two rivers just like we do. They just know that at some point they may see an issue. So they start to pick our brain. What do we do? What does it look like? A lot of people don't understand what a Q200 dike looks like, right? So a 200-year flood dike. So you have to explain what that looks like, because they've just got old dikes that haven't been updated in 30, 40, 50 years. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot more communities that are very concerned about climate change and how they can protect their community. And one of the other things that comes with climate change and these seminars is for every dollar that you spend on mitigation to curb anything that could go wrong, you actually save $7 in your community. So there's a lot of communities now looking to strike before, like get their dikes higher, do more forest mitigation, do more prescribed burns, bringing goats in. So a lot more communities are now doing preemptive work so they can stave off any kind of a disaster. Now you'll never stave off any kind of disaster. Take a look at Grand Forks. All of a sudden they're on fire 2 days ago, like just going crazy. So you never know what's going to happen, and that's why we're really, really glad to have Adam as our emergency management coordinator, who is on top of all of these things. He's in constant contact with the province, with the River Forecasting Centre, with the fire department, with the rapid attack, all of that. So he's always on. He's always on, like we're in the middle of a disaster. And then our ESS emergency services has been trained right to top standards in the province, so we can be activated at any moment in case there's something wrong. So I think we've done very good to be ready for what's coming, because we've had our issues. We've had the fire that we were on notice in 2021, and then we had the big flood. So we're well aware that we have to be prepared.
What actually is the emergency plan? Like evacuation and whatnot?
You would probably have to talk to Adam. Now that will be, I do believe at some point that plan, when he's comfortable with it, will be made to everybody. There'll be like a mailer to everybody, like who you can contact and everything. But Adam has the plan, and there would be several different plans, because there might be several different
scenarios.
If we had a fire that blocked off that road over there, then you'd be going this way.
Yeah.
But if you had a fire that was over here, you'd be going that way. So it all depends what the emergency is. And Adam, his job is to cover every single scenario that would cover that. But he would be the guy to talk to on that, and he would be able to fill you in more on it.
Sounds like a fun job until it actually hits the fan.
But you know what? When shit does hit the fan, it's nice to have somebody who's got it prepared. Because now, let's say we have to evacuate 50 or 60 people, and most of them have an RV. We can get them up at the airport and get them set up there, right? And they can now camp up there. They don't have to leave the community. So we have things like that. Like we have places where we can tent or camp a lot of people if we have to. And one of the reasons that we have the airport as the fallback area where the EOC is because if the airport is underwater, well, the whole city is underwater. It's one of the highest points in the place. And there's no trees up there to burn. And if you do have to get out, you can simply fly out. So it's probably the safest place for us to have. So we've got our search and rescue up there, our EOC up there, our rapid attack fire up there. So we've got all of our emergency services in one area. So it's nice to have that.
Yes, very strategic. So it's still in the process then?
Well, I think emergency management is a continuous process. I don't think it's ever a time that it won't be a continuous process. You will nail down some basic things like, escape routes and stuff like that. But, last year you could go to the fire hall and you could pick up those sprinklers that go on your gutters so you could put on your house. So that's new, you know what I mean? I see a lot of people now are zero-scaping their yards. They're getting a lot of their flammables out of their yards. Ferns and stuff are coming down. Anything that could catch fire is coming down. So you see that. We don't want to see cedar shakes in the community anymore. We are hoping that the garden places that sell stuff don't sell ferns and stuff like and plants that really suck the water up. We want drought-resistant plants and stuff, and they've been very good to do that as well. So, but I think if you're an emergency management coordinator, there's always something happening that you have to be prepared for. So I don't think there'll ever come a day where he gets up and goes, gee, I got nothing to do today. I don't think so.
But when will the community get the mail in that you were talking about?
Probably have to talk to Adam and Cynthia on that. That would be your best call.
Did you attend the session on bridging the gap on innovative solutions for rural healthcare?
No, I did not. I think we had a meeting with Ann Kang at that point in time. And I'm going to be honest with you, Ken, I probably would not have attended it because there is no solution for rural healthcare. We've been after this minister and the ministry to do something for quite some time, and we've gotten concrete answers. So there's really not much I don't think they could have said in that seminar that would have made me all happy and fuzzy. I just don't think so. So I won't waste my time on something that I know is not going to produce anything except rhetoric. So no, I did not attend that one.
And where's the province at with your little bill?
When we met with the Premier, I let him know at the end that I would appreciate an answer, yes or no, on the billing, and he said he'd get back to me. Because I sent it July 11th, I'd like a yes or a no. Just yes or no would be good. Just let me know.
And he hasn't gone back to you yet? I'm taking it?
No, not yet.
Do you think he will?
Oh yeah, he will. Yeah,
that's good.
You got to remember we're in an election right now, right? So they're pretty busy with stuff, and I pretty much already know what the answer is going to be. But I just want to get, I might be in for. We're not asking for cash back. We're just asking for a credit for the next year.
Yeah,
that's all we're asking for, which is easy enough. But again, if you grant it to Merritt, you've got to grant it to every other place that's had hospital closure.
When do you think he'll say yes or no?
I'm hoping in the next week or two.
Do you think it'll be yes or no?
I think it's probably going to be no.
On the note of healthcare, I understand that Merritt submitted a solution on a workable dashboard reporting statistics on the impact of decrim. Mm-hmm. Is there any movement there? When can Merritt or other municipalities expect? Well,
that would go to Minister Whiteside, who we asked for this over a year ago. She promised it would come. And then 4 days after the UBCM in 2023, she said, sorry, we're not doing it. So we've asked for it again because the motion right before ours was from Kamloops about the 4 pillars. And you can't have a 4-pillar approach if you don't have the data that can back it up. So the dashboard was supposed to be very important so that's where we, through a pilot program, we could see, of course, how many deaths there were, what the drug of choice was, the age range. Is it men between 26 and 35? Are they unemployed? Are they, are some of them carrying mental handicaps? You know what I mean? Is it physically handicapped people? Is it more men, more women? Mm-hmm. Why are they addicted? How can we get them? So what we're looking for as a dashboard is not to stigmatize anybody. The whole idea about the dashboard is to see what the data is so we can start having the province making some correct decisions. And when you go into a decrim situation, you need to have a safe drug supply. And that's one of the keys that was missing. Because most of these people are still getting their drugs from their drug dealers. Mm-hmm. Safe drug supply would be nice to have so they could actually know the drugs that they're taking are going to be safe. Because people talk about safe injection sites. People do go to those, but a lot of time, or drug testing. But a lot of time these people don't want to get their drugs tested in case they're bad, because then they lose their drugs. Now they've got to start all over again and they're getting sick, right? Mm-hmm. So they roll the dice, they take the chance. So if we had a safe drug supply along with a workable dashboard, I mean, Portugal has a great model that has been using this now for almost 7 years. And they've had a 71% success rate and drop in death and opioid deaths and everything in 7 years, 71%. That's a big number. Australia is moving into the same situation with dissuasion centers, and they're following the Portuguese model. It's already there. You just have to have the want to do it. And why reinvent the wheel? You don't have to. It's already been invented for you. Just use some of it, follow it. So it will go to Minister Whiteside. She will look at it. Now, 24 days from now, she may not even be elected for all we know. So that will have to go to the next minister that comes in, whether it's the NDP minister or the Conservative or the Green or the Independent. And then they will have to have a look at that. So everything that we have brought forward will have legs for the next 90 days. Even after the election, no matter who wins, they still have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So, but right now, we're not really sure. A lot of the ministers that we talk to, even the Premier, may not be sitting in the same chair 24 days from now. So that changes everything. This is what I call a skip year UBCM, because you're not really sure who you're talking to. Maybe the person you talk to the next time you go to talk to them.
So not much movement until the election.
We usually don't see movement, even if there's a non-election. We don't see any kind of movement until about 4 months after.
Oh wow!
Because you got to remember, there's 2,300 of us there, and there's every community in BC meeting with every minister. So when we go for a minister meeting, we have 15 minutes. That's it. You get in, you do your introductions, and off you go. You have 15 minutes, and it is a definite 15 minutes. So you're out of there within 15 minutes. So and they go all day from morning till night. So they see probably 30 communities a day for 5 days. So they see about 150 communities, and of course then they've got to wade through all of that.
Yeah.
Some of it will be duplication. Some communities will come in with the exact same thing. But yeah, it usually takes about 3 or 4 months before you get any kind of a response, or yes, we're doing this, or yeah, we've looked at it and we're considering it. That's usually about 3 months down the road.
Yeah, so just, you probably don't get this question too often, but did you attend the session on cybercrime?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was just wondering, because like...
Well, you know what, we are quite concerned about that, but we try to do, there's the local group here that is, I think, going to be doing a thing about scams and cybercrime here pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And I know the CPO, Marlene, has had a session or two on that over the last year. So we are concerned about cybercrime, but I think we have it kind of handled in the community, because we try to, I know the CPO and I think the girls from Samaritan's Purse are holding a couple of these for seniors. So the seniors always seem to get nailed on this, right? Because they're just not, they're boomers, right? So they're not used to this technology, and they hit the wrong button and everything goes wrong. So we have had, I think, about 3 or 4 since I've been in office of cybercrime situation where people have gotten together. Marilyn has walked through them, and I know the Samaritan's Purse ladies are doing it too. So, yeah.
Are you worried about cybercrime on the city or something bigger?
We've got really good staff here. We've got really good firewalls and everything that go through it. I'm not gonna lie, I get hacked every once in a while. Oh, wow. Next thing I know, a mail's going out. I'm asking everybody for gift cards. It happens. It happens 2 or 3 times a year. But right away, our IT people get on it right away. We have, our computers are locked down. We can only go so far. We can never load anything on our own. They have to come in and load it with an administrator password. So we can't get ourselves into kind of trouble, and our systems are backed up, but we use the latest technologies, and we've got our IT is a young group, so what we do with our IT is we use a lot of students that are taking the CSUN course in Kamloops, so they're right up to date. So they come here for practicum, and they work through it. So we've got a really top-notch group here that, and they're very on cybercrime. We're told what to do, what not to do, and don't do this, don't do that, don't accept cookies and stuff like that. So yeah, they're on it.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I know a lot of smaller municipalities or hospitals, they often become target of like data hostaging or what have you. Yeah. Cool. And I saw that there was a session addressing systemic racism and advancing reconciliation. If you attended that session, is there anything that can be applied here in Merritt?
I think, it's interesting, like last night we had a meeting with the Stuicks group, and this is a group that is being formed with the First Nations bands that will deal with the land at the end of Pine Street that is now going to be coming open, and it's going to be returned to the First Nations so they can use it for whatever they like to. We can't build there ever again because it's too much of a floodplain, but so there'll be artifacts. So it's another step towards truth and reconciliation. A lot of the stuff that, because we have all taken training all year long, SINEAS training, and then we had another training with Leonard Joe about 2 months ago, and we're all up to date on DRIPA and UNDRIP, And so we're well aware of what Truth and Reconciliation is, and we're trying to work towards an MOU with the 5 bands. We're still working on that. We've made some roads into that. So we're pretty much up to date on where we need to be on that. And we have a very good working relationship with the 5 bands, and I'm not sure there would have been anything there that we aren't already practicing.
That's good. That's good. Going back to some of the networking you talked about earlier, first of all, I gotta ask, who was the coolest person that you met at UBCM? I imagine you meet a lot of cool people there.
You know what? You mentioned in the paper when I talked about the decrim, and the one lady stood up and said, that she had an issue with that, and she's a counselor from Maple Ridge, and she used the term holistic. Now, being a guy of my age, I'm not a Gen Z or whatever. I don't know really. I hear that word all the time, but what does that actually mean? So after I sought her out in the crowd, and we went outside and we had a conversation, I said, "Look, I'm 66, you're 24. What does this holistic? What does that mean?" And she explained to me what holistic approach would be, and I thought, well, so we had a very good conversation. So I would have to say she probably was the coolest person I met. She was a lot younger, but she was willing to take the time to educate an old guy on what holistic. And then what I liked about it is there was no hostility. Like, I wasn't like, oh, and she wasn't. She was like, okay, this is, I said, this is a learning experience. I need to know what you're talking about, because the whole idea is we're both trying to make sure that these people are safe or get better. Mm-hmm. But I need to know what your terminology is and why you were opposed to what we wanted to do, because I needed to know. So I thought she was probably the coolest person I met. She gave me a good half hour. She didn't have to, and we sat outside and had some good laughs. And it's nice to see. It's nice, you don't know everything at this age, and it's nice to find out somebody can help you learn something new.
So what does holistic actually mean? Because I'm in the same boat, and I'm in that generation.
Basically, holistic means where you bring in. So for myself, when my granddaughter gets hurt, I'm like, oh, come on, get up, walk it off. Or something like that. But holistic means you bring in every aspect of, like with us now, Truth and Reconciliation, Aboriginal rights, seniors' rights, all of those things that we've kind of just, I only see this part, but you bring everything in to help with that part, everything. The youth, the seniors, those on drugs, those not on drugs, people who believe that are Christian, non-Christians, everybody's opinion. It's basically an encompassment of getting all the information you can before you move on to something, which I think is a good idea. So, but I've always heard that term. We need a holistic approach, and I really didn't know what that actually meant. Now, I probably could have Googled it, but when it came from her, I thought, you know what, I've got to find out what that actually means. So I was grateful she gave me the time.
You got an understanding instead of just a Google search. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But okay, that was a half joking question, but good serious answer. But so what can Merrittonians expect in terms of some relative near future collaborations as a result of that networking?
Well, the decrim and the criminality of what we're seeing in every community is what we're really pushing for. We need to have some solid ideas on how that's going to work, so we expect to see some purchase on that fairly quickly, where we are dealing with them, and also the dike aspect. We need to get this fixed. We need the province. The province has been very good to us, but now we need the province to get behind us on this federal push, and we need them there. So we're hoping to see some involvement with them fairly decently on that, and I know we will. Minister Cullen and Minister Maw have said that if they are back in those positions, they will be behind us. But if there's new people in, then we have to revisit those people, let them know what's going on, re-educate, so we can get this federal push to get the funds in. So that's kind of the focuses that we're on right now. Is the violence, the decrim, and the safety of the community are kind of what we're really pushing for right now.
So overall, what were your main takeaways from UBCM, and how will they affect Merrittonians?
The main takeaway is that this council is very invested in this community. New councils like this one don't usually get up and address UBCM like this one did and ask ministers for answers. So I'm very proud of them, and I'm very happy that they did, because that shows that this is a community that isn't going to lay down. We want answers, and we want them now. So this entire council that went represented it very well. That was the biggest takeaway that I took away, is that this council is concerned. I mean, we have 2 or 3 on our council that were born here. And most of us have been here for 40, 45 years. We want to see the best for our community. So that's what that was my biggest impression. And then when our CAO presented at these mid-sized community forums, she was very succinct, let everything up, but she had good humor to go with it. It was a fantastic presentation, got her message out there. But that's about, what I thought UBCM did for us, is the fact that it really got us on the map with everybody in the province. They now know where Merritt is, because we did ask some fairly hard questions, and not trying to embarrass a minister, but these questions need to be asked. And I think Minister Cologne probably will remember who Councillor Egan and Councillor Charney are, because they asked some very pointed questions.
Oh, what were the hard questions?
I wasn't there. I was at the other one, so you'd have to ask them. But I know a lot of it had to do with the shelter and BC Housing and how they didn't work with us and stuff. So there were some very poignant questions. But I would suggest maybe you contact them and find out what they said. They kind of updated us on that, but those are questions that need to be asked, because with BC Housing we have to work together, and you coming in and working behind our back is going to make a good working relationship. So I had to go to the one on flooding and climate change, and they went to the housing one. So.
But in terms of some of the connections that you guys made, or maybe information you guys received, how will that impact Merritt?
Well, the one of the things that I think, even though it wasn't part of the thing, was the meeting with the Dairy Association. That's a huge group that wants to get behind the federal push on our dikes. We need that kind of push. We need that kind of backing, and they're a powerful lobby group. So that is going to benefit us. I think meeting with Minister Cullen about getting these dikes fixed with as least red tape as possible, I think will give us some bear us some fruit. And then meeting with Enbridge to find out where the new pipeline was going in and stuff like that. That gave us a clear view that it's not going to affect Merritt much and at all. I think that's what we saw. So. And then also we talked to, we really mentioned about decrim. Some things have to change there. We can't keep going another year and a half the way it's been going. It's just not going to work for us, so, or any community for that matter.
Just out of curiosity, ratio-wise, what would you say the ratio between municipal government representatives, provincial government representatives, and lobbyists? You said there's a lot of lobbyists. I'm curious what the proportions are.
So I would say your municipal representation, because it is a municipality administrative, of UBCM. So I would say 80% of everything is municipal. Some groups get behind other groups, like some cities will, Princeton supports us. We support Princeton because we're in the same boat. And you'll find 3 or 4 communities that will band together and support each other. So one thing about the resolutions, you have a pro mic and a con mic. So if you agree with the fact that derelict ships should be pulled out of you can say I agree with this sort of thing. So there is a lot of that. The provincial ministry part, I'd say, was about 20%, because they're there to listen. They're not really there to help you. They're there to listen. And then the lobbyists, I saw a lot more lobbyists this time. I would have to say that was about 10 to 15% of lobbyists. And one thing you have to do with the lobbyists is you have to realize, are they there to help you, or are they there to help you to help their cause? And that's where you've got to really, I was going to meet with another group, but then I realized there was nothing in it that was going to help this community for me to meet with them, other than the fact that they could say, well, the mayor of Merritt was there. And I just didn't, what they were looking for just did not, I didn't think would benefit us at all. So it would have been a waste of time. But I'd say there's more lobbyists because 2 things. We're coming into a provincial election, and next year at this time we're coming into a federal. So I saw more lobbyists this year than I ever have, because it's almost a double election year. So they want to get their messages across. They want to get their things, and if they can use a community to do it, they will. I would say that's why I think we saw more lobbyists this year, way more.
That's interesting. A lot of interesting characters must be there.
And then you get people that come after, if you get up and you speak at the microphone, you sit down, somebody comes over and says, hey, I'm with this group, and hands me a card. I would like to make a presentation to your council, and then you look at it, and then you do some background to find out who they are. And Some are very, very up on their game, and others are just no. So you weed that out. I received about 5 or 6 cards, people wanting to come and be part of, and most of them to do with healthcare. A lot of them to do with healthcare. Almost every single one except one was healthcare. So they have a plan, sort of thing. But we'll see how it all goes.
Are these the yeses or the nopes?
They're we want to see things get better. They are the hold the feet to the fire people. They have not an axe to grind, but they want answers. And when they see a community like this one that stands up and says, "Hey, we want answers too," and other communities are now starting to do it as well. Lillooet is now getting tired of being closed down all the time, and Clearwater again. Mayor Blackwell is now starting to make some comments on it, and so yeah.
So will we be seeing some movement on this in the near future?
Well, we're going to see some movement on it because it's going to be a new minister. I mean, it better be. Yeah, and this is the problem. This is why I call this UBCM a skip year. Not that you skip it. It's just that it's not a normal year.
Yeah.
Because the people that you're talking to, for all I know, Minister Dix may be the Minister of Health this time next month. Don't know. Or there might be somebody new in his spot. Don't know. So that is the elephant in the room. You just don't know who's going to end up in these spots at this point in time. And we already know that probably December will be us lobbying the new ministers on our concerns. So it'll be kind of like an after UBCM. We probably will do it through email and Zoom, or we may actually have to go down and have some conversations with the new ministers. Because it's like anything else, you got to get your foot in the door first, because every other community is going to be doing the same thing, so we want to be there first. So we have to let these ministers know what our problems are, invite them up here, have them walk through, have a look at stuff, show them what's going on. But the main thing for us is the ER open and the dikes have to be fixed. That's where we're at.
What was your favorite memory from all of the conference?
I think my favorite memory from the whole conference was our CAO presenting at Midsize and how well she did, and how, as a council, we supported her because we asked some tough questions. But it's nice to see, like, UBCM is a really big deal, and there's a lot of people there. And when somebody gets singled out to present, that means that they've stood above the crowd and they're doing something that somebody wants to hear. So to have her asked to speak at Midsize, I think that was a feather in our cap. And as a council and a mayor, we were very proud to see her up there. She handled herself well. Matter of fact, I went up to the mic and said, "Great presentation, take the rest of the day off." And of course, she said I can't. He said, and I said, "No, you can't."
In regards to UBCM, is there anything that you would like to add?
It's an important thing. If there's one thing that we have to attend in 1 year, it's UBCM. It's super important to be there, because you actually do get the 15 minutes of time with the actual minister. And this is my 12th or 13th, no, my 12th UBCM,
Oh, wow.
and they get to know you after a while. And you can be very candid. You still have to have respect, but you can be candid. And you can ask the hard questions, like, why haven't you responded to my letter, Premier? I would really like a response. I was nice enough to send it to you. I would just like the courtesy of a response. I don't care what the response is, just give me a response. So, when you're talking to the minister, you say things like, well, why did we have to pay $30,000 for a dike that your guys knew we didn't need? Like, and we'd like that money back, because that's a waste of money, right? So, so that's what I like about it, is you can actually be heard, and and what's nice about it is then they can call you right up and you have the conversation after. So, I mean, you end up with all of their private numbers because you give them a call and say, hey, what's up, sort of thing. So, you do build a relationship. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not so good. But most of the time, it's great.
That's good. And not regarding UBCM, but a conceptual question that is intriguing to me, and I'm curious to hear your answer to it. Where do you see Merritt in 50 to 100 years from now? Because Merritt has a very interesting set of circumstances where it sits in the middle of Kamloops, Kelowna, and the Lower Mainland, a bit further from the Lower Mainland, but relative to the rest of the province, it's pretty much smack dab in the middle. You have climate change where the ocean is getting higher and higher, and not just Canada, eventually a good chunk of the world won't be habitable. Merritt sits pretty far above the current sea level, and when that sea level rises, it'll still be above the sea level, presumably. So once a lot of the world comes in, like where do you see Merritt in 50 to 100 years from now?
You know, I still see Merritt as a fairly smaller city. I still see it as a city that is passionate about its existence. Have a look at Kaylee, puts a thing out about the Merritt Centennials. Hey, everybody, Centennials Friday night, come out and see the team. That's, you know, you don't see that in other communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see passions. We're growing. I mean, you can tell by the flats with all the work that's gone up there. There's going to be some investment there.
Mm-hmm.
There's other investments. So we're starting to see more investment than we are. But you've got to be careful about growth. Merritt has always been a smaller community, but a country-based community. I think we're proud of that, and it's a blue-collar community where everybody knows everybody. And I still think that's what we want to see. But it would be nice to see more opportunities for our youth to stay here and have a career. That's what I think as councils we have to do. That's why we're looking at expanding with what we have. I mean, you look at NVIT. When I first came here in '77, you could not get post-secondary education here. You had to go somewhere else. But now you can get it here. So when we bring in all these other industries, then somebody graduates and maybe they don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. They just want to have a job. And they can work at one of these new things, come in, raise a family, buy a house, have their next generation of people come along. I still think that we will keep our uniqueness. I think we will. I think we'll be very prepared for what comes down the pipe as far as climate change and everything else like that. But I still think we'll be a community that really cares about its people here and is very happy, very proud of its heritage. So you want to see your community grow, but you don't want to see it grow too quickly. Like example for me is Kelowna. When I was younger, I had family in Kelowna, and Kelowna grew so fast that they try to drive through Kelowna most of the time. They just did not expect Kelowna to grow that fast, and it's become a bit of a problem. I mean, you're constantly in a traffic jam. They don't have a lot of the services. So what I like about Merritt, I know that we're being seen because of prices of land. It went Surrey, Chilliwack, Hope, and now Merritt is being looked at. We're ending up with a lot of people from the coast here. So we want to grow, but we don't want to grow too fast. We want to be able to have a hockey arena, have a pool, have a live theater, that kind of stuff, but you don't want to grow too fast. So I would like to see, 2,000 more people here, a lot more services, more industry and light industry where kids can stay. I'd love to see my granddaughter find a job here, find a husband here, and raise a family here. So it's about keeping our people in our community for generational.
Your own projections from, or maybe not your own, but like the city's projection, I got this off the city, the population's expected to double in the next 25 years. How are we preparing for that?
So when I came in to be council in 2008, we did the same thing, and we said in 20 years we would be at about 15,000. Well, we're well past that. So those are projections that you hope to get to. I don't think we will double in that time. I really don't think so, unless we strike gold or find oil. I really don't see it happening. The city, as you see it, as our limits are now, that's as far as we can go. We can't go any further. Our limits have been reached. So that's why we're talking densification, building up. We can't build out anymore. But that doesn't mean we can't strike deals with, let's say, get some crown property from the province, or strike deals with First Nations on, lease properties, and continue to build out. That's where we may have to go. So that's something we are looking at, is what does the future hold as far as, even though we're landlocked, how can we still continue to grow if we have to? So those are things that we talk about. Right now, we're focusing on bringing industry in that will be here for 100 years. We know that the forestry is in trouble, so we're trying to help with some of the issues with forestry to keep this mill open, maybe even have another one open again. But I mean, we're looking at dwindling wood supplies, we're looking at massive forest fires. We've lost 3 million hectares in this area alone. That's a lot of salvageable trees that are gone. Those are jobs that are gone, right? So you got to start looking at other things like, with Mako coming in and some of the other developments that are starting to come. But yeah, we have growth projections. We have to have them because you have to. If you don't have growth projections, then you're going to be caught flat-footed. So we do have the growth projections. So much this year, so much that year. So stuff like that. And every time we do have a growth spurt, there's other things that come down with it. So at some point in time, with the development that's going up on the hill up there, we're going to have to put in a second fire hall. because the response time for up there
Mhm.
will not match what we're supposed to have.
Mhm.
So we've already bought a piece of property for that, just in case we have to put one up there. So we're ready to do that as well. There'll be a cost to it, but we're ready for that when we have to, because eventually they're gonna say, sorry guys, you need another fire hall. And then of course we'll build one. So those are the eventualities that we're always looking ahead about 10, 12 years. And as a city you have to. And the city planners do that job for you. They plan on what it would look like and what densification looks like, and yeah.
What would the transportation situation look like? Because even right now, like Nicola and Vogue, like sometimes it can get pretty jammed up over there.
And that would be us working with Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to find out what's going to work and what's not going to work, and also continue to work with transit. Maybe we go to bigger buses. These buses are great, but we are one of the largest riderships for a community its size in all of BC.
Mm-hmm.
We're experiencing about 80,000 rides a year for a town that's about 8,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're talking with transit on the new fare increases that they want to see and all the rest. They're talking about regionalization, and they're kind of slowing that down because we kind of thought, well, wait a minute, you know, centralization doesn't work so good. So we are working with transit. Transit is key. I'll be honest with you, down in Vancouver, we took the C-Bus every day, and of course everybody on the C-Bus has those electric scooters, electric bikes, and that's fine, because if I lived in the city, I'd be doing the same thing. I wouldn't probably even have a vehicle. I would be taking transit, because, I mean, you get on the C-Bus takes you over if you want to get on the airline, or whatever the hell that is, the tramway there, or whatever it's called. What is that called?
SkyTrain?
SkyTrain. SkyTrain can take you almost anywhere you want to go in downtown Vancouver, and those scooters take you all over the place. So
Oh yeah.
I probably would not own a vehicle if I lived in Vancouver. And you'll notice what we're doing here with the active transportation paths is we're trying to, at some point in time, have the whole town connected from one end to the other, where you never have to go on the highway. So, and we're finding a huge influx in electric bikes and stuff like that. So we're now building our stuff based on that. We're actually talking now about quick charging bike stations in the future. Because
that'd be great.
well, we need them, because I will get phone calls from somebody saying, hey, we're from Kelowna, we're coming to Merritt for the weekend, my wife and I are seniors, we're on electric bikes, what is there for us to do? Well, you can go to Kakuli Cafe, you can take these paths, so we send them where the paths are, you can now take the path all the way out on highway going to Princeton. There's that path that's done now. So the electric bikes and stuff are becoming a big deal, so we're actually moving towards a plan to make that, because not that there's anything wrong with Lime or Rogers, but we don't want those rental bikes to come to our community. We want to be able to have that where we can do it ourselves, where we can offer, like with TNV, offer packages. We don't want Lime coming here and all of a sudden the community's full of these electric bikes and stuff. We don't want that. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that we want to do it our way first. We want to do our own projection, because we can see that as the next wave of tourism is electric bikes and electric scooters. People are coming every weekend for it. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I think they're actually even better here than in the city, because when I was living in Vancouver, like, I was able to use the scooter, but it was just a bit more difficult. Like, I'd have to actually pre-plan my routes and like calculate like the distance and stuff like that, and be like, okay, I can do this, or I have to charge, I don't have to charge. But here, when I'm not working, I don't take my car out, I just use the scooter, or I'll straight up walk, and I rarely, unless it has 2 cells of battery left in it, I don't have to think about the charging or anything. I can just go do my thing, come back, and then don't have to think about it.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at, is quick charging stations that, you know, where there's restaurants where people's going to have a sandwich, they can start charge their bike or their scooter. I mean, we stayed over in North Kamloops on Lonsdale Quay, and there's that pier and everything out there. Everybody's out there every night, and man, some of those scooters are lit up, man. I'll tell you, they're pink and blue, and you can see them coming a mile away, and some of them are souped up pretty good. There's one guy that had a 50cc engine in it, and man, that thing was something. Wow. But I notice every age is on these things, 10 years old to 85 years old, and everybody's loving it. You know, they're going about their daily business, and you know, you can actually see parking spots downtown now in Vancouver. I never saw that before, but most people are now taking transit and scooters and stuff like that. So, and I do know that we're getting a lot of people coming here on weekends. So, you know, you let them know where the restaurants are, the active transportation pass, so they can stay off the highway. So we're seeing a lot more e-bike tourism every year now. So we're trying to capitalize on that. So we are talking about the quick charging stations for bikes. So that'll be the next thing we do.
I gotta ask, just out of curiosity, all this talk about Vancouver and the Lower Mainland's making me a bit homesick. How do you like the Lower Mainland?
I love it. You know, I'll be honest with you, I love to go and stay there for a few days, but I would not want to live there.
Yep.
It's just too much. I mean, everything is a wait. You got to wait 5 minutes to go to the bathroom half the time. But
Yep.
I love the ability, like when you're on the quay and you go to that dike or that pier and you sit out there and you watch the boats coming and everything. I find it very, it recharges your batteries, and you meet the nicest people. People, hello, how are you? I'm fine. And you see all walks of life out there, you know, and people just really enjoying kids. And you know, there's ping pong tables out, there's basketballs out, floor hockey stuff, and people are just really, and some guys out there with a deal on a speaker making electronic music, and everybody's vibing on it and having, you know, just. And there's chairs everywhere. Like you can sit wherever you want. There's all these beautiful Muskoka chairs. You can just sit everywhere. So, matter of fact, at the end of the day, we were all pretty anxious to get back just so we could sit out there and enjoy the night. And you see the yachts coming in and the big grain stuff going, the grain freighters going by, and the planes coming in. It's I love the coast. Love to go down. Love to be there. When the coast is not wet, it's a beautiful place. But when it's raining, not so much.
It has its own charm to it. That might be home bias though, because that's just kind
Oh
of
yeah, it does. I mean, I do love the coast. I find very friendly people down there. Everybody's very super friendly. And of course, being where we were, it's still very much cruise season. So sometimes there's 4 boats there. And let me tell you, that place is busy. And they had a Disney cruise one there.
Oh wow.
Of course, everybody was in their Disney gear, right? There's ears all over the place, and everybody's got their Disney jackets on, getting ready to go on the boat. But that is quite a small city when there's 4 of those boats, that because some of them have 4,000 people on them. And that place is just jam-packed. And of course, everything's jumping, and you know, people are really taking in the local flavor. And you know, you'll be walking by and there'll be people taking selfies, and they'll say, hey, can you take a picture for us? So you do, you just say, yeah. So what I always do is I make sure I take a picture of myself first, click, and then I turn around and take one of them. So when they're going through it, they're going, who's that guy? I always do that. But no, I really enjoy the coast. It's a fun place to be, because if you want to go to a museum, you go to a museum. If you want to go to a live jazz band, you go to a live jazz band. You know what I mean? If you want to take in a BC Lions game, you take it in. If you want to go to opera, you know what I mean? There's the Macmillan Bloedel Center, the Stanley Park. Or if you just want to sit out on the convention center at the sails there and just on those benches and just watch the world go by, yeah, there's always something to do down there.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
it.
Overall, everything, UBCM, City of Merritt, what's happening, TNRD, all of it. Anything you'd like to add?
No, just we'll continue plugging away, and just really privileged to represent the city. I always feel it's a privilege. This is a privilege to have this job and represent the city, and I know the councillors feel the exact same way, and we just want the best for this community, and we'll work hard to get it. So
That's great. And you know, the last question that's always going to be coming, what's a fun fact about yourself or the City of Merritt? Any fun fact, no right or wrong answers.
Fun fact about
Can be you, can be Merritt,
yeah.
your choice.
Well, fun fact about the City of Merritt. What I really like about Merritt, the fun fact about Merritt is the eclecticness of Merritt. Well, you've got people who are like dyed-in-the-wool hockey fans that bleed hockey. And then you've got the arts community that lives for their art. And then you've got the rodeo people, like you go to the Little Britches or the high school, and they're so vested in the rodeo. And then you've got the car club folks that are so, and it's just that there's something for everyone, and I love the passion of everybody who is involved in something in this community. It's one of the most passionate communities I've ever lived in. Not passionate to the point where if you don't agree with them, they're being upset about it, but they are so passionate about what they're into, and they sell it every time you're around. Like, you know, you gotta come, you gotta see this, you gotta be here, you gotta do this. Before I became mayor, I very rarely ever went to the art museum. Then after I went to a couple, then I realized so I take my granddaughter, we go all the time, because she loves art, and I love the art. Like, I love to see what people are doing, what's in their minds, and what they're laying down. And I also love to see people so excited about the new league, you know, KJHL, how excited everybody is. Like, people are vibrating for tomorrow night, right? And you know, it's a new team, a new group. Everybody's excited, and you know, it just how passionate this community is about the things that they enjoy, and how they, like, you know, you got mums and dads that work all day, take their kids to skating and everything, and then volunteer for groups after all of that, just so they can be part of something, and that's commitment. Like last night, Collettville had their welcome barbecue, hot dog roast, and everything. It was so nice to go to that, right? Not a lot of schools do that, but that one does. And it was so nice to just talk to everybody and meet the new principal, and everybody was having hot dogs and hamburgers and having great times. Kids were running around. There was scavenger hunts and everything. But that's what's nice about this community. It's the togetherness. Like, everybody's also talking about the Garlic Festival this weekend. It's become such a big deal right out of Pioneer Park.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful place, Pioneer Park. They've done an amazing job. But everybody's going to the Garlic Festival. We'll be there. Like, it's a great weekend. I mean, we've got the autocross up at the airport for 2 days. That's going to be cool. You can go to the hockey Friday night, the autocross Saturday, Garlic Festival on Sunday, back to hockey again on Monday. What I like about this community is that we do a lot of local things. So, yeah, I love this place.
Merritt is where passionate people go.
And live, and they're very passionate about their community, and we'll continue to be so. But yeah, I love the people here.